So my name's Tiffany Vega-Gibson. I am the management consultant for the Beaubourg Theatre, which means that I am just creating the foundation that Beaubourg needs to live on operationally. And I'm an independent theater producer and arts admin here in New Orleans. I'm originally from Harlem, New York City, from Spanish Harlem, whoop whoop. And I moved here to New Orleans in 2016, so this summer makes 4 years. June 2nd is Give NOLA Day, and it's an awesome day because it's a day where nonprofits from all over New Orleans are fundraising, and it's even more important now than ever for arts nonprofits to fundraise, for us to support arts nonprofits, because due to the pandemic, a lot of artists are out of work, events cannot happen, and the only way that we are going to survive all of this is being able to have some sort of financial support during this time. And so that's what Give NOLA Day is. So Beaubourg is a really interesting new theater company here in New Orleans because first of all, it's located in a really cute spot in downtown. It has a cafe, it has a bar, it has a beautiful courtyard in the back where it has a stage over a cute little pond. And you can have weddings there, you can have events there, but you can also have performances there. And then kind of hidden in the corner is this wonderful black box theater. So it's already a very unique place. When you walk in, you already feel very peaceful. It feels very welcoming. But also the art that's happening in the theater. And so there's a lot of different theater companies that are in residency at the Beaubourg Theatre, and theater companies that are renting the space. But in particular, Beaubourg Theatre we see ourselves as a place where folks who do not feel welcome in other places in New Orleans theater, because New Orleans theater, I'll be very frank, is very cis, is very white, and is very male. Beaubourg Theatre wants to be a place where people can go to feel welcome, to feel like they can play, they can experiment, and showcase their artwork. And so it's a really amazing new theater company here in New Orleans, and it's filling a need that didn't exist prior to this. I just think it's really important right now to support our arts. Right now, I don't think we would be sane if it wasn't for the arts, since we're all at home right now. You helping out Beaubourg is helping out a bunch of different artists. Beaubourg also has a Beaubourg School. It's a really amazing school that is free to students, and the teachers are paid. I myself taught a class this spring semester, and I had students from I think 20 different states and 3 different countries, and they were learning about New Orleans theater as well while I was teaching the class. So I really think it's important to support arts organizations that are making a difference, not only for the people of New Orleans, but we're also putting New Orleans on the map, and showcasing our culture here, and why it's so important for, I think, world culture and American culture. So yeah, support us.
Cool. I feel like the quarantine has set made this the perfect opportunity to do something different. I feel like someone took the little tiny little knife that you press the reset button with, like someone just pressed it, and now it's reloading. And as we reload, what are we going to do, and how are we going to do that to make sure that everyone feels like they are a part of what theater is in New Orleans. I am India Mack, and I am the Arts, Culture, and Education Director for No Dream Deferred. No Dream Deferred is a theater production company here in New Orleans that prioritizes cultural relevancy for our audience. And we are here today because we are in residence at Beaubourg Theatre. We came to be in residence at Beaubourg through Larnie Turner and Chris. Larnie Turner is the artistic director for No Dream Deferred, and Chris is a member of the Beaubourg company and they had a relationship together that developed at Tulane through a mentorship program. And they got to talking about equitable theater practices and decided to collaborate in some ways, and introduced Lauren to you, and Lauren introduced me to you, and we decided that it was a great idea to cultivate this space with you all and be a resident theater company at the Beaubourg, because our vision and missions aligned, and it just made perfect sense to do that. So both companies prioritize equitable practices, and so equity in the production. So we want to produce theater that looks and feels like the people of New Orleans. We want to have equitable practices in how we treat our artists, from respecting their time in rehearsal to how we pay them. We also want to make sure that we're equitable in the people that we hire. We want to make sure that everyone is represented, and that historically marginalized people feel welcome throughout the process. So from the playwright all the way to the production, that it's equitable in how we finance it, how we staff it, and how we produce it. There's a huge need for equitable practices. There's a huge need to look at those practices from top to bottom. So from board to stage, it needs to be reviewed, because it's not being done. The last Urban League report that I read had numbers from 2017, and New Orleans is still over 60% African American, and you can go into boardrooms for theater companies here and see not a single African American present. You can look at the staffing of theater companies here, and there is not a single African American employee. And then you can look at the season and see there may be one show that has majority African American actors, and not saying that African Americans should be the only people represented, but if that is the dominant culture here, or if the population, the demographics of New Orleans is 64% African American, when you go into a place and there is no representation, it feels intentional to me, and it can't be, because the talent is not there, because this city is built off of culture, and so talent is literally everywhere. And so it has to be embedded in someone's practices for your company to look like that. What can we do first to get our artists in the best mental, physical state before we start producing again? Because we need them healthy, and we need them here before we can do anything. And I think we haven't spent enough time doing that, but Beaubourg can serve as a home for that work. What are we doing to heal and create better practices? What do you need from us? Asking them, plain and simple, what do you need from us as a producer? The reason why arts organizations need support right now is because we are in a huge transition. And when you are building something, you need support. No matter what, I can say what will be no matter what. No Dream Deferred will be prioritizing community, because we are a community anchored organization, and we will be working with Beaubourg to ensure that the mission for providing culturally relevant theater and productions here in New Orleans is at the center of what we are doing, and that we are also prioritizing our artists. So no matter what, we are going to keep community at the center of our work. So whether we're still in quarantine or we're actively producing on stage, our focus will always be the community. And that I know for sure.
When you pose this question of what is Beaubourg and what roles can it fill during this time, it immediately sent me back into the history that I have with Beaubourg, what it was. I don't want to get the timeline wrong, but I think like 7 years ago. And originally when, Beaubourg kind of came onto my radar, it was a space that was being used for whatever the community needed it to be. The space has grown over time. The collaborators have grown over time. It's matured. So now it's not just, hey, emerging artists, do you want to have a show in a gutted warehouse space? It's, do you want to have a show in a very like polished, refined space where people have like poured so much in and built so much trust in the community, and how much more meaningful that experience could be now. You know, now that it's become this cafe, wine shop, free school, event space, theater, it's so many things. But I can't help but think about just that it started as a place where people who didn't yet have a home had a home.
But how exactly do you say Beaubourg? Beaubourg. Okay, I've been saying it right the whole time. Beaubourg Theatre. Look at you. My name is Riot Mueller, and I am a theater maker and performer and storyteller in New Orleans, Louisiana. Beaubourg Theatre and the bar area and the coffee shop, I've spent quite a bit of time there. I've directed a play there and taken classes through the free school, and it's enjoyable to spend time at the theater because of the energy that is present there. It's a very self-aware space that is like very it's a very self-aware space that's also interested in growing itself into fitting the needs of where the universe has placed it in this world, which is in the CBD, which is a interesting and honestly kind of odd place to have a theater in a creative space. The CBD so far hasn't had like, you know, young theater makers be spending time in that area. It is different than walking into just like a, you know, a kind of isolated black box theater. There was quite a bit of energy there to walk into, and a lot of ideas being talked about because of that, and resources being shared and conversations being shared. And in this last production that we're doing right before COVID hit, in this most recent production at the theater that I was directing, like, for example, I hired the person who was working at the coffee shop to be the costume designer, because they're also a very talented theater maker in New Orleans, and that all happened quickly and with ease because they were there, and yeah, that was awesome, and that was like a very unique and special thing to have access to that. Love the bookstore at the front and the book resources in the coffee shop that are theater, art, New Orleans focused. Yeah, spent a lot of time in that front area, really, really enjoying myself. Very accessible, very, very aware of who they are and what they want to do for the city, which just feels good to be around. Feels good to be around folks who have a vision and have dreams and will pursue them and listen and ask questions and move forward.